Alright, last week when we got our 8th and presumably final Mission Impossible movie, that means today I'm going to rank all 8 Mission Impossible movies from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, I don't think there's a bad movie in the bunch here. This is my favorite franchise of all time. I adore these movies with everything I got. I mean, rewatching these movies, I've learned just how much I genuinely love them, and I find a new way to love them every time I rewatch them. A couple things before we get started. If you're wondering why I'm back in the original studio, the studio I started out as, recently I moved out of my house, still adjusting that studio a little bit. I honestly like this studio a little better, but I don't live here, so I'm just here visiting, watching my dogs for the day. So back to the OG studio for one day. I'm still adjusting to the other one. This one is much better. But anyways, with that said, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what is your opinions on the Mission Impossible franchise and how would you rank all 8 of their movies. And with that said, number 8, pretty obviously, Mission Impossible 2. It's the one that most people go to when they say the worst Mission Impossible movie. And for me, it is the worst Mission Impossible movie. It doesn't mean it's bad. This movie specifically, I think the first hour of the movie works much better than the second hour of the movie. The first hour of the movie, where we're doing like the stuff at the races, there's the spy espionage stuff, the thrilling stuff, that's kind of taken from the original movie. Kind of has the same vibe that the original movie does, and that's why I enjoy that overall first hour. I have a lot of fun with that every time I revisit this one, which this one is the one that I revisit the least out of all of them, but anyways, still have a lot of fun every time I revisit that one for that first hour. But this is just one that the more the movie goes along, the more the story just kind of loses me along the way. It's got a lot of the John Woo gun fu. It's cool action, but it's got lots of slow-mo, where, my God, every single action sequence is just slowed to a complete halt. It is so unbearably slow, where, like, it just kind of takes from the action. Any cool sequence that this movie can have, the slow-mo just kind of takes from it, and there's so much of it. I feel like the movie's longer than it needs to be. The story just completely loses me halfway through, where, yeah, I did enjoy that first hour, but as soon as we in that first hour, it just does everything that I didn't want the movie to do. The way I describe this movie every time I talk about it is, the first hour is everything I love about 90s, early 90s, late 90s action movies. The last hour is everything I hate about it. All the slow-mo, the pointless plot. It's just uninvesting, and it's by far the one I had the least fun with. Still, when I revisit it, I do have enough fun with that first hour, but kind of loses me along the way there. My number 7 is going to be our newcomer, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And unfortunately, I have to go number 7 here, because I feel like every other movie here hits its mark. This one, it's not a misfire. It's very frustrating to me. There are some amazing things here. The submarine sequence, him hanging off the plane sequence, 2 of the best sequences in a Mission Impossible movie of all time. I'd say they're both top 5. Maybe not the plane sequence. Plane sequence is top 10, but maybe top 7. I wouldn't say top 5, but the submarine sequence is top 5. The plot is fate of the world stuff. There's more stakes than ever in this movie. Genuinely, by the end of the movie, I felt we had a satisfying send-off to our characters. I feel like our characters had a satisfying resolution, and I honestly, if they said, hey, we're making a new Mission Impossible movie, I wouldn't be disappointed, because I love these movies. Same time, like, I kind of feel it was cheapening the ending of this one, and the way it fully revolutionizes and resolves Ethan Hunt's character arc out of all 8 of these movies. But, nah, this pacing is so slow. Where the first hour of the movie is all exposition. It's characters sitting around saying, this is what we got to do, this is this mission, then we got another mission, we got that mission, so that mission can accomplish this mission later on in the movie for this mission, and it's so convoluted with so much backstory. We have so many flashbacks to other movies. Like, I kid you not, the sequence where Ethan Hunt is getting the knock list in the first movie, and he's just hanging like this. We see that at least 15 times in this movie, because it cuts back to that all the time. So the story, the pacing of the movie just doesn't really fit for me. And when we get those sequences, it feels like we're so far and few between. We hit the submarine sequence, and this is when I'm like, okay, this movie's kicking into high gear. This is Mission Impossible. And then we get more exposition and more slowing down the plot. And then halfway through the plane sequence, it starts getting awesome. Like, oh, this is what movies are made for. And then from then on, the final 20 minutes of the movie, I genuinely liked. And that's why I left the movie with a positive outtake on it. But it is no help denying that every single action sequence is so far and few in between. I wouldn't even say the submarine sequence is an action sequence. It's a thriller sequence. The plane sequence is literally the only, I'd say, action sequence in this entire movie. It's 3 hours long, so it is slow. The pacing is so slow. It doesn't have the same pacing out of every Mission Impossible movie. This is coming out of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which has the best pacing out of all of them. So I just struggled with this one. I enjoyed so much out of it, but overall the movie just kind of felt like, not a misfire, but a disappointment to me, because it was not what I expected at all. It did have great positives, but the negatives are really strong in this movie. Number 6, the original Mission Impossible movie. Now, time out. I am still doing the deep dive series. I'm going to have the deep dive of movie number 2 coming this week. So, I'm still doing that series. I already did one for this one out on the channel already, if you guys want to check it out. Mission Impossible, the original, is number 6. I find this one, it's good to go back to simple times. The simplicity in this one is what makes this one shine. Where in the future films, specifically 4 and on, we get all these moving parts. This one is literally just, oh, Ethan Hunt's on the run. He's got to find this to clear his name. That's the movies. The simplicity of it all. Even like the one sequence where he's getting the knock list, like I mentioned earlier, where he's just hanging like this. One of the best sequences in the franchise, where you're so on edge the whole time. Literally, a drop of sweat is making you freak out for this sequence. It's one of the best sequences of the franchise, and I'm on the edge of my seat every single time I rewatch the movie. There are some decent action sequences here. The story is pretty compelling. It's not as entertaining as other movies. Like, other movies genuinely, like I say, it's nice to go back to simplicity. In the other movies, when we do have all those moving parts, that's what elevates these movies above. But still, it's nice to have the simplicity, but it just doesn't have that thing that elevates the other movies above it. So this one is just a 90s action movie, Brian De Palma action movie that works for me. It's not one of the best, but it is a pretty entertaining and good film. Number 5, Mission Impossible 3. This is a movie I really do enjoy. I think that this one has the most intense sequences and one of the best villains. I'm not going to say the best intense sequences and the best villain, because I feel like the best villain can either be Gabriel or Solomon Lane. I feel like those are 2 great villains, and Dead Reckoning and Fallout have some of the most intense sequences. We'll talk about those movies later on. But this movie, it's so good, with Owen Davian, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he is phenomenal in this movie. From that very first sequence where he's sitting with Ethan's wife, holding the gun to her head, and then you hear that gunshot as we fade to black. It's one of the most haunting sequences of this entire franchise. First time I watched the movie, that's all I could think about the entire movie until we got to that sequence, because you know it's coming. It puts you on edge, and is a very efficient way to start the movie. And then every other sequence is so intense along the way. Just the direction by J.J. Abrams, I think, is a phenomenal director, and he directs this one with so much style. Brings his own distinct style. That's what's cool about this franchise, is because first movie, you get Brian De Palma movie. Second movie, you get John Woo movie. And third movie, you get J.J. Abrams movie. So, honestly, I think J.J. Abrams has the best direction out of all of them, because the sequences were more intense, and the villain was awesome. It also starts to ease into what we call the new Mission Impossible kind of stuff. The stuff that really define this franchise. Stuff that make the movies 10 out of 10. So, it starts diving into that as well. The movie's not perfect. There are some pacing issues. The one sequence where he's jumping into the place to try to get the rabbit's foot, I wish we saw that sequence. We never learned what the rabbit's foot is until Final Reckoning. So when I rewatched this one before Final Reckoning, I was a little bit like, what's the rabbit's foot? And then we learned in Final Reckoning. So that's what really worked here. But the movie, I wouldn't say is as strong as the other ones. Like, literally, this I gave 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. My number 4 is 4.5 stars. So those next movies can be interchangeable. This one, I think, is perfect spot where it's at. I think it's the best out of the originals, but I still think the other ones are way better. Number 4, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Now, this one is incredible, like I just mentioned. It's one of the best action movies of all time, as in all 4 of these movies are. This is the one that I feel like it takes a little bit for Christopher McQuarrie to adapt as a director to this franchise. His style takes a little bit getting used to into this movie. The story has its little bits and quirks there. No use to mention that Solomon Lane is a phenomenal villain. The group that he's in, the Syndicate, is one of the best group of villains. It's so intense. The heist here where Ethan's jumping into the giant pool of water to go underwater and do all that is an all-timer sequence. It is phenomenal, and for some reason it's still like, out of the 3 sequences that are above this one's the worst out of all of them. It's still great. We have some phenomenal action in this movie. We get introduced to Ilsa Faust, who is one of the best characters in this franchise. So just so much stuff this movie does to solidify it as one of the greats. Where the Mission Impossible movies, here's where they really took a turn. In Ghost Protocol, it's directed by Brad Bird, different than Christopher McQuarrie. But here, it starts to feel like a franchise. It starts to feel big, and it starts to feel awesome. And the set pieces, everything that it's done, is what Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise can accomplish. And it's really good in this movie. I love this movie, but for some reason, I just never loved it as much as other people. So, like, a lot of people have Rogue Nation at number 1. I have it at number 4. It's a great movie, but just because it takes a little bit to adapt to Christopher McQuarrie's style, that's why it's not, like, in my top 3. Still, I gave it 4.5 stars. It's amazing. Number 3. Man, oh man, it's going to be hard to place this here. Mission Impossible Fallout. 5 stars from here on out. 5 stars. This movie's incredible. The only reason it's at 3 is because when I watched the first time, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I was like 13, so it wasn't really for me at the time. And then the second time I watched the movie, I was just such a big fan of it, but for some reason, like 6 months later, I just honestly couldn't remember the story that much. So literally rewatching it a couple days ago, honestly, I barely remembered anything about it, and I got to technically re-experience for the first time again because I didn't remember anything about it. It's awesome. The only reason it's 3 is because I'm worried that I'll forget the story later on. The story might not be as memorable. Woo! This movie's awesome, baby! I mean, I was standing in my living room, like, so pumped up watching this movie. It's a movie to get pumped up to. It's awesome. Again, the action set pieces are incredible. So many of them had me on the edge of my seat. They're phenomenal. This is the second movie that Christopher McQuarrie directed in this franchise, and that is literally perfect for him, where he's kind of struggled in Rogue Nation. He perfects in this one. Even, like, at home, I didn't even realize the aspect ratio changes. I was still blown away by the sequence where Tom Cruise gets in the helicopter, and he's chasing Henry Cavill's character. That's awesome. The story here has so many moving individual parts. That's awesome. Like, so much stuff is going on, but all of it makes sense and comes into the final part here. So, I mean, it's just a perfectly crafted story, phenomenal action sequences, gets me pumped up. Personally, every time I watch this one, I desperately want to put it 1 because I love it so much. Like, it's one that I get so pumped up watching, and I get more pumped up watching this one than all of them. But just because I kind of forgot the story along the way, I have to put it at 3. But this one might be the best. It genuinely might be the best. Just the way I reacted to it. I genuinely stood in my living room, gave it like a 45-minute standing ovation, because this is cinema, baby. This is movies. This movie is what movies are made for. And it's only number 3. Coming in number 2 spot, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This one is directed by Brad Bird, and you can genuinely tell everything about this movie screams Brad Bird, and it is a perfect movie. It's a perfect way to scream Brad Bird. It's awesome. The movie's so unique. I mean, you get that sequence where he's on the Burj Khalifa, the best sequence inside of Mission Impossible, where he's on it, glove starts to fail, starts to slip and fall a little bit. It's intense. You're on the edge of your seat. I would have killed to watch this in IMAX. Can't wait. I actually haven't revisited it before this ranking, so that's one I cannot wait to revisit just for that sequence alone. The story here is great. The villain here is great. And the set pieces are awesome. It's even one of the most unique ones of the franchise. The movie ends with him in a parking garage with cars falling everywhere. Like, what more can you want from a Mission Impossible movie ending directed by Brad Bird? It's awesome. So the Burj Khalifa sequence is what puts us at number 2. The rest of the movie is great. Now, I might even, like, in the future change the ranking to Mission Impossible Fallout being number 2 or even number 1. But it's just so interchangeable. This one is fantastic for different reasons than Mission Impossible Fallout is fantastic. But this one, I think that Brad Bird direction and the more unique style from the rest of the franchise elevates this one to my number 2. But my number 1, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Part 1, Final Reckoning is technically Dead Reckoning Part 2. They just changed the title. Fantastic movie, man. I love this movie to pieces. This is a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100 movie. It's awesome. The pacing is incredible. Literally, the opening title sequence isn't until 30 minutes into the movie, and I get so pumped up every time it happens. Like, you're dead into the middle of the story, and then the opening title sequence pops up. What more can you want? Then you go from the airport sequence to the car chase sequence, which are 2 all-timer Mission Impossible sequences, to the dance club sequence, which is another all-timer Mission Impossible sequence, and the train at the end of the movie, which is the best sequence inside this entire franchise. All the action sequences are phenomenal. They get me on the edge of my seat. They all have these moving parts. Specifically, the car chase sequence in Rome is a 10 out of 10 sequence. It is phenomenal. Our villain here in Gabriel is phenomenal. I didn't mention this when I talked about Final Reckoning, but I feel like they kind of turned him into a cartoon in that movie. Here, he is just intense and thrilling, just like the Entity is a phenomenal MacGuffin object here. Phenomenal. Haley Atwell is a fantastic addition. Really something that elevates this as well is her performance and her character. And honestly, I would love to see a spin-off TV show or movie of her. I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, what would happen if we got a spin-off of that? I'd be 100% there for, because that sounds awesome. So everything about this movie, man, it just gets me so pumped up. Fallout is great. Ghost Protocol is great. This movie's great. Rogue Nation is great. Hell, even... this is the best franchise of all time, man. Bottom of the list are good movies. Phenomenal franchise, man. And it's awesome that Dead Reckoning is always the one that will stand number 1 to me. I love Dead Reckoning. Thank you guys for clicking on this ranking. Stay tuned for a Bring Her Back review. Because, there's a sequence that's still stuck in my mind. The sound in that sequence, still freaks me out. But anyways, thank you guys for clicking on this video. Stay tuned for that. And the Mission Impossible Deep Dive video is still coming very soon. And with that said, subscribe.